Admiral Day One stood at the observation deck of Earth's orbital diplomatic station, watching as the massive Zalarian Imperial flagship docked. His weathered face revealed nothing, but his mind calculated possibilities. "They're requesting permission to board, sir," said Lieutenant June. "Granted," Day One replied. "And alert our ground teams." The Zalarians were an imposing sight, tall, military-efficient beings with an empire spanning hundreds of systems. Their lead diplomat, Commander Ravik, didn't bother hiding his disdain as he surveyed the humans. "Your military capabilities are quaint," Ravik said during their third meeting. "Our analysis suggests your forces are disorganized and scattered. The hegemony offers protection in exchange for reasonable resource tributes." Day One smiled politely. "We appreciate your assessment, Commander." Later that evening, as Earth's diplomats dispersed, Day One made a single call to a secure line. "It's beginning," he said simply. "Activation Protocol Sigma 9. On the other end, Director J nodded to herself before hanging up. Within minutes, encrypted messages reached thousands of ordinary-looking homes across the planet. In a small apartment in Seoul, Miho put his daughter to bed with a story. His phone buzzed with a notification that looked like a routine weather alert. His face changed for just a moment before he kissed his daughter's forehead. "Will you be here tomorrow morning, Dad?" she asked. "I need to take a work trip," he said softly. "But I'll be back before you know it." After she fell asleep, Miho went to his closet and moved aside his teaching clothes. Behind them was a small black case he hadn't opened in 3 years. Across the city, Suna finished her hospital shift. The head nurse had just clocked out when her watch displayed a seemingly innocent calendar reminder. She stopped mid-step, then calmly walked to her locker. 20 minutes later, she left the hospital in plain clothes, carrying nothing but a small bag. The Zalarian delegation spent the next day touring Earth's military facilities. They were shown aircraft carriers, missile systems, and uniformed soldiers drilling in perfect formation. "Primitive," murmured a Zalarian officer to Ravik. "Their best weapons are at least 2 generations behind ours." Ravik nodded. "And so transparent. They clearly display their elite forces with special uniforms and badges." Admiral Day One, who was leading the tour, pretended not to hear. "Would you like to see our training grounds next?" he asked. That evening, Ravik sent his report to the Imperial Command. "Earth is ripe for integration into the hegemony. Their military poses no significant challenge. Recommend immediate installation of our governance systems." Meanwhile, in a regular-looking office building, Director J met with her team. The room looked ordinary: desks, computers, coffee cups, but the people were anything but regular. "The Sigma 9 activation is proceeding as planned," reported her assistant. 87% of our operators have acknowledged and are moving into position." "And the rest?" asked Jay. "Will be online within 12 hours. Some were in remote locations." Jay nodded. On her screen were thousands of moving dots spreading across the globe. Each dot represented someone who, until yesterday, had been living as a teacher, doctor, mechanic, or parent. In a mountain cabin, Taeho received his alert while chopping wood. The old man had been retired for 11 years. His neighbors knew him as the quiet fisherman who sometimes taught local children to tie knots. None knew he had once led Earth's most dangerous strike team. He set down his axe and went inside to pack a small bag. The next day, the Zalarians presented their terms to Earth's United Council. The agreement was thinly disguised domination. Earth would provide resources and accept Zalarian military bases on every continent. "This is quite one-sided," Day One noted calmly. Ravik smiled with all 4 rows of teeth. "It is the standard agreement for planets of your development level. Your alternative is less pleasant." "I see," said Day One. "And these bases, they would be staffed by how many Zalarian personnel?" "Approximately 50,000 to start," Ravik replied. "Is that a problem?" "Not at all," said Day One. "We just need to prepare appropriate facilities." That night, as the Zalarian delegation celebrated their easy victory aboard their flagship, Director J addressed her assembled team. For generations, we've hidden our true strength, she told the room of ordinary-looking people. We've kept our most dangerous fighters living normal lives, invisible until needed. Today, we are needed. On screens around the room, they watched as the first Solarian ships began descending toward Earth, believing they were coming to claim an easy prize. But across the planet, people who looked like everyone else were quietly getting ready. The kindergarten teacher. The old fisherman. The hospital nurse. The physics professor. Thousands of them. Earth's most dangerous weapon had always been hidden in plain sight. Colonel Hajun walked through the grocery store, selecting fresh vegetables while the Zolarian military observer, Lieutenant Krell, trailed behind him. Your off-duty activities fascinate me, Krell noted. On our worlds, military personnel live separately from civilians. Hajun shrugged. Earth has different traditions. Across the planet, similar scenes played out as Imperial observers studied what they believed were Earth's military capabilities. In the Imperial Assessment Chamber, Commander Ravik reviewed the findings with satisfaction. Their forces are exactly as we predicted, conventional, predictable, and no match for Imperial technology, he reported to the Viceroy's hologram. Their most elite units are clearly designated with special uniforms and insignia. Primitive approach. Meanwhile, in a modest apartment, Suman, a kindergarten teacher, received an encoded message on her personal device. Without changing expression, she excused herself from her boyfriend's dinner party, citing a family emergency. In her bedroom closet, behind children's artwork and teaching supplies, she retrieved a case she hadn't opened in years. Suman ran her fingers over the case's surface. 5 years had passed since she'd touched it. The dinner party chatter continued down the hall as she entered her code. The lock clicked. Inside lay her past, compact tools and devices that looked harmless but weren't. Across town, Lieutenant Krell continued his observation of Colonel Hajun in the produce section. You spend much time choosing vegetables, Krell said. Hajun inspected a bell pepper. My mother taught me to cook. Food matters to humans. Krell made notes on his device. Interesting. Your military personnel engage in domestic tasks. Most humans do, Hajun replied, playing his role perfectly. The Zolarians had been on Earth for 2 weeks. In that time, they had toured military bases, watched training exercises, and observed what Earth wanted them to see. Zolarian observers followed selected military personnel everywhere, studying what they considered Earth's fighting capability. They're so obvious, Lieutenant Krell reported that evening to Commander Ravik. Their soldiers wear rank on their sleeves. Their elite units have special patches and insignia. Ravik nodded, pleased. Typical of developing species. They haven't learned that true power hides itself. The Viceroy's hologram flickered in the command center. Your assessment is complete? Yes, Viceroy, said Ravik. Earth's military poses no challenge. Their weapons are basic. Their organization is transparent. Their best soldiers stand out clearly with special uniforms. Excellent, the Viceroy replied. Begin Phase 2. Place monitoring devices at all major military installations. In her apartment, Suman changed into dark clothes. To her neighbors, she was just a kindergarten teacher who loved children. Nobody knew she had once been part of Earth's Shadow Defense Program. For 7 years, she had lived completely as a civilian. Her boyfriend thought she had family in another city. He knew nothing of her real skills. She sent a text, family emergency. Might be gone a few days. Then she activated the small device from her case. The screen showed a map with glowing dots, Zolarian observers across the city. Nearby, Colonel Hajun paid for his groceries while Krell watched. Hajun's phone buzzed. The message appeared to be about a military meeting, but the code was clear, observer removal begins at 0200. Hajun smiled at Krell. Would you like to join me for dinner? I make excellent bibimbap. I should report back, Krell hesitated. One meal, Hajun insisted. Cultural exchange is important. In the command center, Ravik studied the gathered data. Their military communication systems are primitive. We can monitor everything. His aide entered with new reports. Sir, we've identified all their key installations and leadership. Their chain of command is completely visible. As expected, Ravik said. Any signs of resistance to our presence? None, sir. They appear to accept our superiority. Ravik smiled. Earth will join the hegemony without trouble. At midnight, Sumin slipped out of her apartment building. To anyone watching, she looked like a woman heading home late. No one noticed how she moved, efficient, silent, aware of every shadow. She met 3 others in a park, a mail carrier, a university professor, and a restaurant owner. None looked dangerous. All had received the same activation code. Like old times, the professor said quietly. Target locations, asked Sumin. The mail carrier handed out small devices. Each observer has been assigned. Remove monitoring equipment first, then the observer. Across the city, Hajun shared a meal with Krell. The Zalarian seemed to enjoy the food. Your culture values these shared experiences, Krell observed. Hajun nodded. Humans connect through many things: food, music, stories. Interesting but inefficient, Krell said, checking his device. My species focuses on strength and position. Different worlds, different ways, Hajun replied, watching as Krell's eyes grew heavy. The special ingredient in the meal was working. At 0200, synchronized operations began worldwide. People who appeared ordinary moved with extraordinary purpose. The kindergarten teacher. The mail carrier. The retired accountant. All activated after years of quiet waiting. By morning, 200 Zalarian observers had disappeared without trace. Their monitoring devices were either destroyed or, better yet, modified to send false data. When Commander Ravik received the morning report, everything looked normal. Earth's military continued routine operations. Nothing indicated that anything had changed. But beneath the surface, Earth's true defense had awakened. The Imperial base on the contested lunar territory grew quickly. Commander Ravik watched with satisfaction as defense systems came online. The humans have requested 72 hours to evacuate remaining civilian personnel, his aide reported. Ravik scoffed. Grant it. Let them save face. For 3 days, shuttles arrived carrying what appeared to be civilian technicians and researchers. Imperial scanners confirmed they carried no military weapons. Most wore ordinary clothes, maintenance uniforms, research attire, administrative wear. On the 4th day, all communication with the lunar base ceased. When the Imperial rescue fleet arrived, they found their base intact but empty. Security footage showed only fragments, ordinary-looking humans moving with extraordinary precision, Imperial guards neutralized in seconds by civilians who suddenly moved like elite warriors. The final footage showed a maintenance worker, a middle-aged man with a friendly face, looking directly into the camera before it went dark. Donghyun adjusted his maintenance uniform as the shuttle docked at the lunar base. He looked like any other worker, graying hair, smile lines around his eyes, a slight limp from what appeared to be an old injury. The Zalarian guards barely glanced at him as they checked his credentials. Purpose of visit, the guard asked in a bored tone. Environmental systems maintenance, Donghyun replied, showing his work order. Your air filters need replacement. Behind him, 20 other humans waited, janitors, technicians, researchers. All looked ordinary. All passed through security without issue. The scanners found no weapons, no military technology. Commander Ravik observed the arrivals from his office on the command deck. These humans waste our time, he told his second-in-command. 3 days of shuttles bringing nobodies to collect their belongings. Should we stop allowing them entry? His officer asked. No, Ravik said. Let them have their dignity. Besides, some are conducting repairs that save us work. Donghyun moved through the base with the casual confidence of a maintenance worker. He fixed air filters, adjusted temperature controls, and chatted with other humans. Zalarian guards ignored him, just another harmless human. At night, in his assigned quarters, Donghyun removed a panel near his bed. From the space behind it, he took out small objects that had been hidden there by previous civilian workers. None were weapons in the traditional sense. All had passed through security. Status, he whispered into what looked like a regular communicator. Team 1 in position, came the reply. Team 2 ready. Team 3 entering tomorrow. Across the base, other ordinary-looking humans received similar updates. The cook testing recipes in the kitchen. The data analyst working late. The cleaner mopping floors. All moved with purpose that hid beneath routine actions. On the third day, the final shuttle arrived. Among the passengers was Minji, a gray-haired woman who walked with a cane. Guards helped her through security, not bothering to scan her walking aid thoroughly. Medical researcher, she explained when asked. Just need to collect my samples. That night, as most of the base slept, Donghyun met with team leaders in a storage room between security sweeps. Systems mapped, he asked. Minji nodded. Defense grid can be isolated. Communications next. Guards, asked Donghyun. 47, replied a young man who had spent 2 days delivering mail around the base. Rotations charted. Donghyun checked his watch. Begin at 0200. At precisely 0200, the base's systems experienced what appeared to be a minor power fluctuation. Guards checked monitors but found nothing unusual. They didn't notice that the security cameras now showed looped footage from earlier hours. Minji moved without her cane now, her movements fluid and precise as she entered the communications center. The 2 guards had just received cups of coffee from the friendly kitchen worker, coffee containing a fast-acting sedative. In the main barracks, the environmental systems began releasing a colorless, odorless gas that Donghyun had been pumping into the ventilation system for 3 days. Not lethal, just enough to ensure the sleeping guards wouldn't wake. Team by team, the civilians moved through the base. None carried conventional weapons. They didn't need to. The maintenance worker who could disable a Zalarian with precise pressure points. The researcher who knew exactly how the alien nervous system worked. The cleaner who moved with the silence and speed of a shadow. Commander Ravik woke to flashing alerts. Report, he demanded into his communicator. No response came. When he opened his door, Donghyun stood waiting. The maintenance worker smiled pleasantly. What is happening? Ravik demanded. A demonstration, Donghyun replied calmly. Please come with me. In the main hangar, Ravik found his entire command staff seated in a row, conscious but unable to move. All around them stood humans, the same unremarkable civilians who had been fixing equipment and cleaning floors days before. Who are you people? Ravik asked. Just citizens, Donghyun replied. Ordinary humans who were activated when needed. Minji stepped forward. Your ships are waiting. You and your personnel will board them and return to your fleet. And if I refuse? Donghyun smiled. We've controlled your base for 6 hours without firing a shot. Consider your options carefully. Within 2 hours, the Zalarian ships departed. As the last one prepared to launch, Donghyun walked to the security camera. He looked directly into it, his friendly face revealing nothing of the skills that had allowed 60 civilians to capture an Imperial base without casualties. Then he turned off the camera, leaving only darkness. How is this possible? Demanded the Viceroy, his hologram looming over a shaken Commander Ravik. We've discovered something disturbing, Ravik replied. Earth's history reveals a military doctrine unlike anything in the hegemony. They call them quiet professionals, their most lethal fighters are trained to live as civilians. The intelligence officer, Major Tejo, stepped forward with historical records. Earth's most effective warriors historically operated without uniforms, he explained. They lived normal lives until activated. That kindergarten teacher who disabled our security grid? Former Special Operations. The maintenance worker who neutralized 16 guards? A retired combat specialist. The Viceroy's eyes narrowed. You mean their dangerous fighters aren't in their military? Correct, Taeho replied. They're everywhere. The gardener, the professor, the medical technician, any human could potentially be one of their elite operators, living among ordinary citizens, invisible until activated. The Viceroy's face darkened as he processed this information. The massive command chamber fell silent. 50 high-ranking Zalarian officers watched their leader, waiting. "Show me," the Viceroy finally said. Major Taeho activated the main display. Images appeared of ordinary humans going about daily life, a woman teaching children, an old man fishing, a young man delivering packages. "This is Sumin," Taeho said, pointing to the kindergarten teacher. "According to records we recovered, she served in Earth's Special Forces for 12 years before becoming a teacher. She disabled our entire security grid in 4 minutes using everyday items." The image shifted to security footage from the lunar base. Sumin moved with impossible speed, her movements precise and deadly efficient. "And him?" the Viceroy asked, pointing to the old fisherman. "Taeho. Retired 15 years ago. Former team leader. He trained 30 of the operators involved in the lunar base incident." Ravik stepped forward nervously. "We didn't understand, Viceroy. We looked for military threats in their bases, their uniforms, their visible weapons. While their real weapons walked among us," the Viceroy finished. "How many?" Taeho hesitated. "We don't know exactly. Thousands, perhaps tens of thousands. Their records are fragmented by design. What we do know is that Earth has maintained this practice for centuries." The display showed historical images, ancient warriors who lived as farmers until called to fight, soldiers who blended with civilian populations, fighters who hid in plain sight. "Unlike our empire," Taeho continued, "Earth never separated its military from its civilian population. Their deadliest fighters returned to normal lives after service, living among ordinary citizens, raising families, working regular jobs." "But ready to be activated," the Viceroy said. "Yes. And nearly impossible to identify until they act." An admiral spoke up from the back. "This explains the lunar base. We scanned for weapons, but the weapons were the humans themselves." Taeho nodded. "The maintenance worker, Donghyun, he was a combat instructor for 20 years. He used maintenance tools to disable 16 guards." The Viceroy's hologram paced the command deck. "How do they maintain skills while living as civilians?" "Some practice is disguised as sports or hobbies," Taeho explained. "Many teach these skills to others. Martial arts instructors, wilderness guides, even dance teachers maintaining physical abilities." Ravik looked miserable. "We believed their elites would be obvious, Viceroy. All advanced species mark their warriors with rank and uniform." "Humans evolved differently," Taeho said. "On Earth, predators that announced themselves died. Survivors learned to hide strength, not display it." The Viceroy turned to his military council. "Assessments?" An old general spoke slowly. "Occupation would be impossible. We cannot identify their fighters. Every neighborhood, every workplace could contain dormant operators. They could be activated at any time." "And conventional warfare?" asked the Viceroy. "We would destroy their military bases easily," said the general. "But their true fighters would survive, living among civilians. They would wage a shadow war we could not win." The Viceroy studied the images again, the teacher, the fisherman, the maintenance worker. Ordinary humans who had humiliated the Imperial forces. "There's something else," Taeho added quietly. "These records suggest Earth has maintained this system for protection, not conquest. They could have killed our forces at the lunar base. Instead, they demonstrated capability and released prisoners unharmed." The command room fell silent again. The implication was clear: Earth could have done much worse. In his quarters later, Ravik reviewed the files on Donghyun, the maintenance worker who had captured him. The man had grandchildren. He coached youth sports. His neighbors described him as kind and helpful. Ravik remembered the moment Donghyun had stood before him on the lunar base, not gloating, not threatening, just calmly efficient. The most dangerous human Ravik had ever encountered looked like someone's friendly grandfather. The Imperial understanding of Earth had been completely wrong. They had prepared for a conventional enemy with obvious strengths and clear military structures. Instead, they found a planet where the most lethal defenders hid in plain sight, living ordinary lives until the moment they were needed. Ravik closed the file. Earth would require a very different approach. 6 months later, Commander Ravik sat across from Admiral Day One, signing the new cooperation treaty between Earth and the hegemony. Your approach is most unusual, Ravik admitted. On our worlds, strength is displayed openly. Day One nodded. Different evolutionary paths. On Earth, predators that advertised their presence rarely survived. The most dangerous were those you never saw coming. Later, Ravik submitted his final assessment to the Imperial Council. Earth's apparent military weakness was, in fact, their greatest strength. Their most dangerous capabilities remain hidden in plain sight. The true elite live as ordinary citizens until needed. We observed their uniformed military while completely missing their actual fighting force. This doctrine makes conventional occupation impossible. Any human could potentially be an elite operator, indistinguishable from civilians. The baker who sold me bread yesterday could be the same person who disabled our lunar base. The taxi driver might be a demolitions expert. Earth doesn't showcase its deadliest soldiers, it hides them where we would never think to look, everywhere. In her kindergarten classroom, Suman helped a small boy with his art project, her gentle hands steady and patient. Only the faintest scar on her wrist suggested she had ever been anything other than a teacher. The children would never know that 3 months ago, those same hands had disabled an Imperial security grid in under 4 minutes. She glanced out the window at the distant Imperial diplomatic shuttle and smiled. Some secrets were worth keeping. The signing ceremony concluded with a small reception. Zalarian and human officials mingled awkwardly, still learning each other's customs. Ravik watched the humans carefully, wondering which ones were merely diplomats and which might be deadly fighters in disguise. Still trying to figure us out? Admiral Day One asked, appearing beside him. Ravik nodded. I find myself watching everyone now. The server bringing drinks. The security guard. The translator. Any could be one of your operators. That's the point, Day One said. Even we don't always know. Records are kept separate. Identities protected. Across the room, Donghyun entered wearing a formal suit instead of maintenance coveralls. Ravik stiffened at the sight of the man who had captured him on the lunar base. Don't worry, Day One said. He's not here for you. Donghyun nodded politely toward them before joining a group of diplomats. He looks so ordinary, Ravik said. Most dangerous things do, replied Day One. The most venomous spider on Earth looks like a common house spider. The deadliest jellyfish is nearly invisible in water. Later that evening, Ravik walked through the Earth Embassy gardens. He found Donghyun sitting alone on a bench. May I join you? Ravik asked. Donghyun gestured to the empty space. For a moment, they sat in silence. I have a question, Ravik finally said. On the lunar base, you could have killed us all. Why didn't you? Donghyun looked at the stars. That wasn't the mission. What was the mission? To show you who we really are, Donghyun said. Your empire needed to understand Earth. By humiliating us? Donghyun shook his head. By educating you. Death teaches nothing. Back on the Imperial flagship, Ravik finalized his report to the Viceroy. He included everything they had learned about Earth's hidden defense system, the quiet professionals who lived normal lives until called to service. Earth represents a new kind of challenge, he wrote. Their true strength lies not in technology or numbers, but in invisibility. Their most dangerous weapons aren't in military bases, they're teaching children, baking bread, and fixing equipment. The Viceroy's response came quickly, recommendation? Ravik didn't hesitate, respectful alliance. Conventional conquest strategies would fail. They've shown restraint. We should show wisdom. In her classroom the next morning, Suman helped her students with art projects. Her hands moved with perfect control as she cut paper into shapes. A child asked for help, and she knelt beside him with a kind smile. Through the window, she could see an Imperial diplomatic shuttle landing at the distant spaceport. The new treaty was working so far. The Zalarians were learning to treat Earth as equals rather than as a conquest. Her phone buzzed once, not an activation code this time, just a routine update that the treaty was proceeding well. She slipped it back into her pocket and returned to helping the child with his art. That evening, she met with Donghyun and other former operators at a small restaurant. To anyone watching, they looked like ordinary friends sharing a meal: a teacher, a maintenance worker, a doctor, a bus driver. "Do you miss it?" asked the doctor, once a team leader. Suman thought about the lunar base mission. The precise movements. The perfect control. The years of training expressed in minutes of action. "Sometimes," she admitted. "But this is why we do it." She nodded toward the restaurant window, where people walked freely under the evening sky, unaware of how close they had come to Imperial occupation. "They don't need to know," Donghyun said. "They just need to live." Miles above Earth, Commander Ravik watched the planet from his ship one last time before departing. "Such an unassuming world. Such a dangerous one." "Commander," his aide said. "The Viceroy asks when you will return to Imperial space." "Tell him we depart now," Ravik replied. "And update our contact protocols for Earth. Mark them as approach with extreme respect." As the ship moved away from Earth, Ravik thought about the ordinary-looking humans who had changed the Empire's understanding of strength. The lesson would not be forgotten. The end.